The warning ignored. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Valkyrie Dominion fell silent as High Admiral Krell strode to the central platform. His crystalline exoskeleton glimmered under the ambient light, the natural armor of his species reinforced with ceremonial plating that denoted his status among the greatest military leaders of the 12 core worlds. Esteemed Council, Krell's voice resonated through the chamber. Our long-range scouts have identified a promising world in Sector 47, designated Sol 3. Initial scans show abundant resources, suitable atmosphere, and a native species that has achieved rudimentary spaceflight but remains confined primarily to their homeworld. Projected above the chamber, a holographic image of Earth rotated slowly, land masses and oceans highlighted with resource indicators. Members of the Council leaned forward, their compound eyes reflecting the blue-green planet. The natives call themselves humans, Krell continued. They are physically unimpressive, no natural armor, minimal strength, and limited sensory capabilities. They exist in scattered nation-states with no unified defense system. Our analysts predict minimal resistance and complete subjugation within one planetary rotation. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, a voice interrupted. High Admiral, I must caution against this assessment. Heads turned toward the source. Ambassador Thale emerged into the light, his exoskeleton weathered and scarred, lacking the polished sheen of the council members. Unlike most Valkyrie, who bore the species' characteristic blue-green coloration, Thale's carapace had faded to a dull gray. Ambassador Thale, the High Chancellor acknowledged with obvious reluctance, you have not addressed this council in 7 cycles. What brings you from your retirement? Thale approached the central platform, each step deliberate. The council members whispered among themselves. Most knew the story, how Thale had disappeared on a diplomatic mission 15 cycles ago, only to return alone, his ship barely functional, claiming the loss of his entire diplomatic contingent. I recognize this world, Thale said, gesturing toward the hologram. And I know these humans. The Dominion must not engage them. Krell's mandibles clicked in dismissal. Your caution is noted, Ambassador, but our intelligence is thorough. These humans have only just developed fission technology. Their most advanced spacecraft require chemical propellants. They pose no threat to our forces. Intelligence reports cannot measure what makes humans dangerous, Thale replied, his voice carrying an edge that silenced the chamber. I was there 15 cycles ago, when we attempted first contact with a human research outpost in what they call their Antarctic. We thought them primitive too. Our delegation of 20 returned as one. The High Chancellor leaned forward. You never fully explained what happened. Because you would not have believed me, Thale said. The humans were not hostile initially. They were curious, cautious, but welcoming. But when one of our security detail misinterpreted a human gesture and fired, killing one of their scientists, Thale's antennae twitched at the memory. They transformed. Not physically, but something within them changed. A primitive emotional response, Krell interjected. Understandable but irrelevant to our current strategy. It was not merely emotion, Thale countered. It was adaptation. Within hours, they had analyzed our weapons from the security feed, identified vulnerabilities in our exoskeletons, and engineered countermeasures from materials in their research station. They did not attack in force or with rage. They hunted us with cold efficiency, one by one. Thale touched a scar that ran across his thorax. They let me live, wounded but able to pilot our shuttle. The human leader, a female called Dr. Harlow, told me as they loaded me into the escape pod, tell your people that we only want peace, but we will not be victims. If you return with weapons, we will find you wherever you hide. A heavy silence hung over the council chamber. The High Chancellor exchanged glances with senior members before addressing Thale again. Ambassador, while your experience is regrettable, it represents a single incident with a small group of humans. Our invasion force consists of 12 battle cruisers and over 20,000 elite warriors. No primitive species could possibly resist. Thal's antennae drooped. You misunderstand what makes humans formidable. It is not their technology or their numbers. It is their adaptability and their memory. They do not forget, and they never surrender. If you attack their world, they will pursue the dominion to the edge of the galaxy. Enough, Krell cut in. The decision is made. Invasion preparations are already underway. The human world will be ours within a standard cycle. Then I formally request my objection be recorded, Thal said, his voice carrying a finality that caused several council members to shift uncomfortably. Recorded and dismissed, the High Chancellor replied. This council stands adjourned. As the assembly dispersed, Thal remained, staring at the holographic Earth. They will never let you go, he whispered. 3 standard months later, High Admiral Krell stood on the command deck of the Dominion flagship Inevitable Conquest as it entered Earth's orbit. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, blue oceans and swirling white clouds concealing the primitive civilization below. Forward batteries charged, Admiral, First Commander Vex reported. Ground invasion forces are prepared for deployment. Our scouts report minimal orbital defenses, as expected. Krell nodded, satisfaction evident in his posture. Begin the first phase. Target their largest military installations and communication hubs. Once their command structure is disrupted, we'll deploy ground forces to secure resource centers. Transmission incoming, Admiral. The communications officer interrupted. Origin. Earth. Put it through, Krell ordered, curious what primitive plea the humans might offer. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the human female with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Her expression was calm, collected. This is General Amara Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We are aware of your intentions and capabilities. We have monitored your approach since you entered our solar system. Krell's mandibles twitched in surprise. Their cloaking technology should have prevented detection. Your species attempted contact with us 17 years ago, General Chen continued. That incident ended with loss of life on both sides. We have been preparing for your return ever since. The Admiral recovered quickly. Your preparations are irrelevant, human. Your world will be under Dominion control within a day. Surrender now, and your species may be permitted to exist as a client race. General Chen's expression didn't change. You were warned, Admiral. Ambassador Thal delivered our message. Since you have chosen to disregard it, what follows is on your conscience, not ours. The transmission cut before Krell could respond. A bluff, he declared to his bridge crew. Begin the attack. Sir, First Commander Vex hesitated. How did they know about Ambassador Thal? Krell didn't answer. Launch orbital bombardment. Now. The flagship's forward batteries fired, sending lances of energy toward Earth's surface. Across the fleet, other vessels followed suit, targeting key military installations identified by their intelligence. But something was wrong. Admiral, the tactical officer called out, our targeting systems are reporting 0 impacts. Impossible. Krell moved to the tactical station. Reacquire targets and fire again. The batteries discharged once more, but the result was the same. No impacts registered. Scanning anomalies detected. The science officer reported, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. There appear to be projections in orbit. Holographic decoys. What? Krell's composure cracked. Where are their actual installations? Before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered violently. Warning systems blared throughout the bridge. Multiple impacts. The tactical officer shouted. Small craft, thousands of them, emerging from concealed lunar bases. The view screen showed them now. Swarms of fighter-sized vessels erupting from the moon's surface and from hidden orbital platforms. They were crude by Dominion standards, but they moved with precision that defied their apparent technological limitations. Return fire. Launch our fighters, Krell ordered. Sir, our launch bays are reporting malfunction. The doors won't open. Vex reported, his voice strained. And something is interfering with our targeting systems. Another impact rocked the ship, then another. Their weapons shouldn't be capable of penetrating our shields, Krell said, disbelief evident in his voice. They're not using energy weapons, the science officer responded. They're using kinetic penetrators with some kind of phase-shifting technology. They're bypassing our shields entirely. On the tactical display, Krell watched as two of his cruisers went dark, overwhelmed by the swarm of human fighters. This wasn't possible. A species that had barely achieved spaceflight couldn't have developed technology to counter Dominion defenses. Unless they'd been preparing for us, Krell realized aloud. For 17 cycles, they knew we would come back. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Emergency lighting activated as primary systems failed. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Someone reported distantly. We've lost engine control. Weapons systems are offline. Through the viewport, Krell could see the human ships surrounding his crippled fleet. They had not destroyed the Dominion vessels, merely disabled them. The communication system crackled back to life. General Chen's face appeared once more. Admiral Krell, your fleet is neutralized. We are boarding your vessels now. You have two options, surrender or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide. As the transmission ended, Krell sank into his command chair. How had it all gone so wrong? Their intelligence had shown nothing of these capabilities. First Commander Vex approached, his posture showing deference despite the chaos. Your orders, Admiral? Krell stared at the view screen, at the blue-green planet that had just defeated his supposedly invincible fleet. He thought of Ambassador Thal's warning. They will never let you go. Transmit our surrender, Krell said quietly. And may the ancestors forgive us for what we've unleashed. The hunters become the hunted. 6 months after the failed invasion of Earth, High Admiral Krell found himself in an unfamiliar position, prisoner and diplomat. The holding facility on Earth's moon was comfortable enough, though the constant Earth gravity generators, installed specifically for the Valkyrie prisoners, taxed his exoskeleton. When the door to his quarters slid open, Krell expected another human interrogator. Instead, Ambassador Thal entered, his gray carapace stark against the white lunar walls. They let you visit, Krell observed, mandibles clicking softly in resignation. I requested the meeting, Thal replied, settling into a chair designed to accommodate Valkyrie physiology. The humans respect my position as the only Valkyrie who warned against invasion. Krell's antennae twitched in irritation. Have you come to gloat then? To remind me how right you were? No, Thal's voice was somber. I've come to inform you that the human counteroffensive begins tomorrow. A cold sensation spread through Krell's thorax. Counteroffensive. But we surrendered. Your ships control what remains of our fleet. You misunderstand humans still, Thal said, leaning forward. They accepted your surrender to end the immediate conflict and to study your ships, but they never intended to merely defend their world and stop. But the Dominion homeworlds are 20 light years away, Krell protested. Even with our captured ships, it would take them years to reach Valkyrie space. Thal's compound eyes reflected the artificial light. That would be true, if they were using only your technology. What do you mean? In the 6 months since your defeat, human engineers have not only mastered Dominion technology, they've improved upon it. They've incorporated principles of their phase-shifting weapons into drive systems. Their ships can now travel through subspace in ways our scientists never imagined. Krell's mandibles went slack with disbelief. That's impossible. Such advancements would take decades of research. For us, perhaps. Not for them. Thal gestured toward the viewport, where Earth hung in the blackness. Their entire civilization mobilized after your attack. Research that once took years now happens in weeks. They're no longer divided by nation-states. They've unified with a single purpose. What purpose? Krell asked, though he feared he knew the answer. To ensure no alien force ever threatens Earth again, Thel replied. "The human fleet departs tomorrow for Valkyrie space. 40 ships, most of them new constructions incorporating hybrid technology. They call it Operation Deterrence." Krell rose abruptly, his exoskeleton creaking with the effort. "The Dominion has planetary defenses, other fleets, which were designed to repel attacks using technology we understand." Thel interrupted. "The humans don't fight as we do. They don't announce their presence or engage in direct confrontation when avoidable. Their strike forces are already in position throughout Dominion space, lying dormant until the main fleet arrives." "How do you know this?" Krell demanded. "Because they told me," Thel said simply. "They want me to communicate with the Dominion Council. They're offering terms." Terms. The humans don't want extermination or conquest. They want recognition and security. If the Dominion acknowledges Earth as a sovereign power, dismantles its offensive fleet capacity, and agrees to technological exchange protocols, there will be no attack. Krell sank back into his seat. The Council will never agree. It would be an unprecedented humiliation. "Then the Council will fall," Thel said, his voice carrying absolute certainty. "The humans have studied our social structure, our political system, even our biology. They know exactly where to strike to cause maximum disruption with minimal casualties." "You speak as if you've sided with them," Krell accused. Thal's antennae drooped slightly. "I've chosen survival. After my return 15 cycles ago, the Council dismissed my warnings and exiled me. The humans listened. They treated me with respect. They asked questions and valued my answers." He paused. "They understand something we've forgotten. Admiral, true strength comes from adaptation, not domination." A chime sounded, indicating the end of the visitation period. Thel rose to leave. "Wait," Krell called. "Why tell me this? I have no power here." "Because tomorrow, General Chen will offer you a choice," Thel replied. "To join the diplomatic mission to the Dominion. Your presence would lend credibility to their terms, possibly avoid unnecessary bloodshed. You're asking me to betray the Dominion." "I'm asking you to save it," Thel corrected. "The humans are coming, Admiral. Nothing can stop that now. The only question is whether they come as conquerors or negotiators." He moved toward the door. "Think about what you saw when your invincible fleet was disabled in Earth orbit. Then imagine what they can do now." After Thel departed, Krell stood at the viewport for a long time, staring at the blue-green world that had so thoroughly defeated him. In 6 months, they had mastered technology that took the Dominion generations to develop. What would they be capable of in a year? In 10. 1 month later, Krell stood on the observation deck of the human flagship Consequence, watching as it emerged from subspace near Valkyria, the heart of the Dominion. Beside him, General Chen and Ambassador Thale observed the planet's orbital defenses activating, recognizing the approaching vessels. "Your defenses are impressive," Chen commented, turning to Krell. "But you notice we bypassed the outer system entirely. Your early warning systems didn't detect our approach." Krell said nothing. The human ship had accomplished what Dominion scientists had deemed impossible: targeted subspace emergence, allowing them to bypass the elaborate defensive perimeter of the Valkyrie home system. "Communications are receiving the Council's response to our arrival," a human officer reported. "They're demanding our immediate surrender or withdrawal." Chen smiled slightly. "Right on schedule. Ambassador Thale, would you do the honors?" Thale stepped forward, toward the communications array. "This is Ambassador Thale, addressing the High Council of the Valkyrie Dominion. I come as representative of Earth and her colonies, accompanied by High Admiral Krell and General Amara Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We request immediate parley to discuss terms of recognition and coexistence." There was a long pause before the response came. The view screen activated, showing the High Chancellor, surrounded by council members. Their compound eyes widened at the sight of Krell standing alongside the humans. "Admiral Krell." The Chancellor's voice dripped with contempt. You collaborate with the very species that defeated you. Have you no honor? Before Krell could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. On tactical displays, Dominion warships were powering weapons, moving into attack formation. They're positioning for an alpha strike, Krell warned. Turning to Chen, they intend to destroy this ship before negotiations can begin. Chen nodded calmly. As expected, she touched a communication panel. Activate countermeasures. Across the Valkyrie system, previously undetected human stealth platforms activated. Not weapons, but massive field generators that created localized subspace distortions. One by one, the Dominion warships found their drives and weapons suddenly inoperable as the fabric of space-time twisted around them. On the view screen, the council chamber erupted in chaos as reports flooded in. "What have you done?" the High Chancellor demanded, mandibles clicking furiously. "Demonstrated our capabilities," Chen replied evenly. "Your military vessels are temporarily disabled. Your planetary defenses remain operational. For now. We could have arrived with an invasion fleet. Instead, we came with a diplomatic party. The choice is yours, Chancellor, negotiation or escalation." The council chamber fell silent. The Chancellor conferred with military advisors before responding. "What are your terms?" Chen gestured to Krell. This had been their agreement. He would present the terms, showing the council that he believed they were fair. Krell stepped forward. "The terms are straightforward. Earth will be recognized as a sovereign power with exclusive rights to Sol and neighboring systems. The Dominion will reduce its offensive military capacity by 60% over 5 years. A technological exchange program will be established, benefiting both species. You expect us to disarm while this human threat looms." One council member objected. "I expected the same from them when our fleet entered their orbit," Krell replied. "They could have destroyed us. Instead, they disabled our ships with minimal casualties. They could have bombarded our worlds in retaliation. Instead, they offer partnership. And if we refuse?" the Chancellor asked. Chen stepped forward again. "Then we leave today, but not before restoring Admiral Krell to his position with a fully armed and upgraded vessel. We withdraw our forces from Dominion space and allow whatever internal conflicts follow to resolve naturally." The implication was clear. Refusing terms would signal to ambitious Dominion worlds that the central authority was vulnerable. Civil war would follow, with Krell as the catalyst. The council chamber erupted in urgent discussion again. When the Chancellor addressed them once more, his posture had changed subtly, antennae lowered in reluctant acceptance. "We will need time to study these terms in detail." "Of course," Chen nodded. "We've prepared quarters for a Dominion delegation aboard this vessel. Ambassador Thale will facilitate discussions." As the transmission ended, Krell turned to Chen. "You never intended to attack the homeworlds." "No," she agreed. "Contrary to what you might believe, humans don't seek vengeance for its own sake. We seek security. Your society can provide more value as allies than as conquered subjects. And the technology you've displayed, the subspace distortion fields, the drive innovations." Chen smiled. "We've had 17 years to study the technology you left behind in Antarctica, Admiral. Imagine what we can develop together, rather than in opposition." Krell's compound eyes studied the human general. In all his cycles of military service, he had never encountered a species that could so thoroughly defeat an enemy, then offer partnership from a position of unquestioned strength. "Ambassador Thale was right about your kind," Krell admitted. "You are dangerous, but not in the ways we expected." "The most dangerous thing about humans," Chen replied, looking toward the view screen where Valkyria rotated slowly, "is our capacity to change. Today we're dangerous as potential enemies. Tomorrow, we could be dangerous as allies." As diplomatic teams prepared for the arrival of the Dominion delegation, Krell remained on the observation deck, watching his homeworld. For the first time since his capture, he felt something unexpected. Hope. Not for the restoration of Dominion superiority, but for something new, a future where adaptation mattered more than domination. Perhaps, he reflected, that was the most important lesson the humans had to teach.